Hello and welcome to the Echo of Connections podcast. I am your host, Gabe Hansen, and I'm with my mother, Dawn Hansen.
Hello, welcome.
And in this episode, we'll be talking a little bit about ourselves and why we're doing a podcast. As a little introduction before we get into the mayhem that will be the future episodes. So you talk about yourself.
Okay, like Gabe said, I'm Dawn Hansen, and I have been a dispatcher at a police agency, a small police department, for 28 years. In that time, I started out as records, which in our agency is records and non-emergency call taking, so people who called the business line would reach us. I went into dispatch in 1998 and was pregnant with Gabe in 1999, 98 to 99. So I got to live through pregnancy with Gabe with me. In the process of dispatching, I also became what's called in the field an FTO, which is a field training officer, where you teach other dispatchers to be dispatchers. I also joined the what at the time was our SWAT team, which is a special weapons and tactics team, as a crisis negotiator. The name is kind of morphed. It used to be hostage negotiator, but in reality, we didn't really do very many hostage negotiations. So now we're crisis negotiators, which is much more descriptive and accurate. I've been doing that since, I want to say 2007.
Overall
crisis negotiation.
Yeah.
I went to FBI Academy for basic negotiations with one of my coworkers, who I hope will get to be a guest with us. So,
That'd be fun.
Yep, Carrie Ransom. And there's several other people along the way that I've met in crisis negotiations who are amazing communicators and would be also guests on our show. I hope.
Yeah.
Yep. There's been one couple who said yes.
That's good.
Yeah. And also as part of the process of being in the union or actually being part of the police department, is I was asked to be on the union, which is the E-board or executive board for our union, which represents police officers, dispatchers, call takers, jailers,
And records?
and records and property. I think I said them already, and detectives. Everybody that is
Not command.
everything below sergeants in our agency. Our agency has, we're supposed to have 9 sergeants, but we currently only have 7 or 6. 7. We're currently have 3 lieutenants and 1 chief. So we're not
Really small agency.
very small, but we're down. Our staffing is down by like 40%. So we're missing officers.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then other training and other things I've done is also for something called CIT training, which is crisis intervention training, which has been, I believe, mandated by the state of Oregon, where every person that deals with people in crisis receives specialized training, specifically to know how to deal with people who have like schizophrenia or bipolar or some sort of
Some mental health stuff.
serious mental health stuff. Identifying those who need de-escalation. It's become the buzzword of 2020 forward is de-escalation, which is what we've been doing for years. It just now has a fancy name.
I guess we should probably also talk about that we live in Oregon.
We live in Oregon. And so then we, within the trainings that we've received throughout the years, I've also quested in the knowledge to find out more about mental health and stress.
It's very important.
Very important for our coworkers. It's very important for family. It's very important for everybody we deal with on the phone. Usually when we're dealing with people, it's the worst day of their lives.
Yeah.
And so I
think it's a very important thing to register if you work as a police officer or something in that genre.
And you get tired because it's, the same stories, same things over and over.
If your everyday life is dealing with everyone else's worst day of their life, then
yeah,
it makes a great way of putting it, I think. But
yeah, I think it becomes, what do they call that, where it's like that stress that just keeps continuing.
I don't know what
Cumulative. Cumulative. I knew there was a word for that. Cumulative stress.
Cumulative stress, yeah.
And then it can lead to complacency and burnout and
yeah.
So it's hard sometimes to hold on to that time of being compassionate for somebody, even when it's the 17th time I've talked to somebody that day who's having their worst day.
Yeah.
Or it's the 17th time talking to that same person who's having a really bad day because their life is not getting any better.
All right.
So anyway, I also, as a result of some of these things that have happened over the last couple of years, peer support has become there's been legislation and been changes for probably the last 15 years. I was on the first attempt to try to make peer support work for our agency, which it didn't really work out.
Wait, when was that?
That would have been, I want to say like before you were born, but maybe not.
Oh, wow.
It might have been 2001 or 2. I went to some sort of training about peer support.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how long you've been a part of that
Trying
thought process, at
yeah,
least.
the thought it's difficult to truly make it work. At the time, our agency was very different.
Yeah.
There was a lot of the old school ideas, where now it's sort of changing.
All right. So that's a little about you and where you're coming from and your background.
Yes. And anyway, so I've come home to talk about these things
Yeah.
over the years.
So, I'm just trying to give a segue into for me. So for me, for this, I don't have much to say. I'm a civilian,
A civilian.
but I've talked about your work for my whole life,
Yes.
as far as I remember. And then I try to digest a lot of true crime stuff, either through other podcasts or through like TV shows or movies or whatever. True crime stuff.
I think
Not your average like cop TV show, but
yeah. More reality based,
yeah.
not Hollywood version.
Gets a bit boring, and repetitive, or I'm just
For Hollywood or real life?
for Hollywood. No, real life always has that just air of it, like interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're talking about like a crime that has happened in real life, it's just interesting, a lot more so than if that just happened on a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but that's just how it is for me.
And I think what you bring to it that is helpful is you tend to bring questions that I think a lot of people would have, or things I don't think of.
Yeah, I mean, it's because I try to understand the subject matter fully. I mean, whatever drives my curiosity, I try to find out, so.
Yeah, you like to, it seems like you always want to know why. Why did you guys do that? Why did you?
I think why is, I don't know, it's one of those like childhood questions that I never lost.
The 3-year-old. Why? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
That whole why thing, I think I never really, I like learned how to not be annoying about it, I guess, but I've always been, why did this happen? Why did that happen?
Yeah.
I think it leads to better understanding.
I think so too. And I think it helps us to understand each other, which leads us to why.
Are we doing the podcast?
Exactly.
What a great segue.
Yes, thank you. So the podcast came about in 2 different ways. One was it's very difficult to reach everybody at work and give them the kind of information and training. Via email is just awful.
Yeah.
Email, it's not my favorite form of communication. I just say email and I get anxious,
That's not a good thing.
right?
That's a sign of something bad, like deeper in.
Right. Yeah. Psychosis of some kind. But people do tend to have times at work where there's nothing happening. If they're on graveyard or on an early shift where they really need to stay awake and they need to stay alert and it'd be great to have stories. And how great would it be if it was stories about people that we already know or information that actually pertains to their lives? And a lot of the people I work with listen to podcasts. And so I had mentioned this as an idea for an internal use. And that's potentially something that will happen. But the more I thought about it, the more I really was like, hey.
Well, the more you talked about it with me, I was like,
Yeah.
why don't we just do one?
Exactly. And bringing you into it makes it so that there's this other element of what does your generation think? What are your guys' ideas, thoughts?
I think for the most part, I'm a bad read for my generation.
What did you say you are? You're a
Using like internet speak, I'm a boomer.
boomer and a
Yeah.
zoomer?
I have a bit of zoomer humor, but I'm also a boomer.
A
yeah.
boomer zoomer. So
But I mean, saying that, you don't really get it, do you? I've had to
I don't.
explain to you
I don't.
that boomer isn't just a generation term anymore.
Yeah, I'm thinking of my mom's generation.
It's like a mindset in online culture. I think I'm generally. What's weird is I dive into meme culture, but I'm bad at explaining it.
Yes, I know. The first time I asked you, what the heck is a meme?
Yeah, I'm like, I can't explain this because I just understand it. I just get it. It's like
It's part of your DNA now.
I just yeah. But I guess I bring memes to the table.
Yes, and a little humor. Yes, and then
Well, I think being super serious about it is just not the
it's not the angle we're
Not the
going
angle.
with. No,
definitely not the angle we're going with.
no.
And I don't think it should be.
I hope not.
'Cause we're probably going to get into some dark
There's dark stuff. There's
in the
dark
future.
stuff.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, no one wants to listen to however long a podcast will be of just dark depressing
stuff. Yeah.
all the time.
No.
One or two occasional dark stories are fine, but
What I'm hoping we can do with dark stories, my hope and my plan or idea is that we can take the dark stories, of which we each person who's been in this industry will have,
we'll have a couple at least.
lot. Take some of those dark stories, and then what is it that helped? What is it that brought us through? What is the resilience piece? Was
Yeah.
there something that stuck that you couldn't get rid of or couldn't figure out, or I couldn't figure out, that I eventually did figure out? Or eventually was there, what made it so that it's palatable now and I can talk about it now without bursting into tears or getting a little angry or shutting down or punching something?
Well, I think part of it is time does heal a lot of wounds.
That's the old cliche, yes.
See, the saying is time heals all wounds, but I don't think that's true.
No, I don't think so.
I think time will, it's scarring essentially, where a scar is different than an open wound.
Right,
I think that's probably what you're talking about, right? It won't affect you the same way, but
right.
it still affects you.
Because grief, if it is its own mistress.
Yeah.
Grief brings
Yeah.
a whole other layer of emotions to it that is difficult to process. And sometimes some of that pain or residual pain is the grief, the loss of whatever it was.
Yeah.
But some of the things that I think are have been difficult for me, and I imagine other people, is that being so sure that there was something I shoulda, coulda, woulda done different that would have, coulda, woulda, shoulda changed something.
Learn from your past mistakes.
But the problem I find is that sometimes there really is nothing I could do. And what I did was my very best.
I think coming to grips to that is the hardest
That's
for a
the
lot of
hardest
people.
part. It is. And the grips, and not just in the mental sense, like, oh yeah, I know I did everything I can, because there's a great story that'll, hopefully we can talk about at some point, for me, that I can encapsulate all of that now.
Oh, yeah.
But that happened like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So
You're not Superman. I think that's what people say.
you're not super what?
You're not Superman.
No.
That's what a lot of people say, I think, in regard to that. I should have done that. I could have done that.
Yeah.
Would have done that.
Yeah. And
Hindsight's 20/20, right?
and the ability to forgive oneself and give a little bit of grace,
Yeah.
which is hopefully what we can do for each other.
So stuff along that line is what we'll be talking
That's
about.
what we're hoping for, with maybe a little bit of humor.
And the occasional, hopefully, happy ending, right?
Yes, and silly. Yes, we do have some great stories like that. We have some miracle stories where you're like, how in the world could this all have turned into this great ending without some sort of wow, how did that happen? If you believe in angels, if you believe in God, whatever it is, I think we can all say that there have been times in our lives where something wonderful has happened and it just feels miraculous.
Yeah. All right.
We live for the miracles, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess covered everything we wanted to talk about for this little short intro.
And the rest of the intro, and this is just the last little wrap up piece, is that our guests are probably going to vary, hopefully going to vary.
The more guests, the better.
Exactly.
Just no matter what walk of life they're from.
Exactly. And we welcome anybody who's interested in talking to us or has questions, has thoughts,
reach out.
Reach out. We're definitely going to have guests from all sorts of areas, officers, dispatchers.
Hopefully some friends.
I already have an interview with a massage therapist best friend.
Your lifelong best friend.
My 50-year anniversary interview. And then also we have online, hopefully we can get an EMDR certified counselor interview with her. She's out of Maryland, a very interesting lady who's got some great information for all of us. And we have a couple of people who are in peer support. We have a couple wives and spouses of officers.
You've been talking to a lot of people.
I've been telling people that I want to talk to you. And so please stay tuned, and you can find us at
places
all over. Echo of Connections.
Yes.
Echo of Connections.
Places will definitely be
YouTube.
our YouTube, Spotify,
iTunes.
iTunes.
Yep, we're gonna get on iTunes. Don't forget to like us and all of that on iTunes. It's a big deal, I hear.
I don't know iTunes, so
We're gonna make it happen.
and then we're gonna do a TikTok.
We're gonna do some TikTok feeds. We're gonna do some Facebook, Insta.
Wow.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Look at you being. I don't know Instagram either.
I just.
This is the boomer part of me where I'm like, what is the hell is Instagram? How does Twitter work?
Oh yeah, Twitter. I know Twitter. I got a Twitter account going.
Look at that. You'll run all the social media.
Oh, kinda. So anyway, stay tuned. Send us your thoughts, loves, likes, and questions.
And hate.
Yeah, we'd like to share some hate. I'm down with that.
Criticism.
Right? It only hurts for a little bit, then we get
Forever. It only hurts forever.
Okay, so on that note, thank you for tuning in to
You want me to do it?
Yeah,
Echo of Connections.
with
People.
Gabe Hansen
And Dawn Hansen.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.